Hey, music junkies. Professor of Rock, Adam Reeder here. I'm actually sitting to the side of my set here. You can see my record rack here. And I'm doing another on the fly segment. I had some thoughts, and I just thought I'm going to throw on the iPhone here and just share them with you as we have the last couple of weeks. Again, this is not going to be edited or any sound done like that. We're just going to get right into it. And I was thinking that we had a couple of artists that passed away in the last few weeks and wanted to pay my respects to them. Before we do that, though, thinking about those artists that passed on, it spawned some thinking that it was about 3 years ago, about this time 3 years ago, that Tom Petty passed away. And huge Tom Petty fan. We're going to celebrate him very soon. But it just got me thinking about the rock here and how important these artists are. Now, not to take anything away from actors or athletes or comedians or writers, dancers, directors, painters, sculptors. These are all important to the arts. But when musicians like Tom Petty or Prince, George Michael, Neil Peart, Aretha Franklin, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Glenn Campbell, David Bowie, when all of these and so many more pass away within like 3 years or so of each other, crazy. It really exemplifies the role that great music has within our culture. It also makes you realize, at least makes me realize, that the golden era of popular music, the rock and roll era that we celebrate every day on this channel, that era is it's truly gone. You can say that I'm an old man who's saying the same thing that my own dad may have said to me before, but you'd be wrong, because the greatest music in the history of, not of the last 40 years, the greatest music in the history of our universe was released between 1955 and 1995. It just was. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. Losing these artists really drives the point home fiercely. There's not words that can really express that. We've lost and are unfortunately going to lose the greatest musical artists of this universe's existence sooner rather than later. I wish that they could live to be 200 years old, but we know that that's coming. And the next 10 years are going to be brutal. We think the last 3.5 have been brutal enough. So you think I'm being overly sentimental, probably, which I probably am. That's how I am. But okay. But you think about this. What artist in the last 20 years, 15 years, in popular music, mainstream music, has written or immortalized a song that's anywhere near the same level, the same hemisphere as Free Fallin' or Purple Rain or Respect, Johnny B. Good, Tom Sawyer, Tutti Frutti, Heroes. Come on. Faith, Careless Whisper, I may have already said that one. American Girl, Limelight, Sweet Little 16, Good Golly Miss Molly, Chain of Fools. These songs are the checkpoints of our lives. I could actually name another 40 songs just from these artists, these creators. Great music and its creators are some of the most precious and important gifts, enduring gifts that our planet possesses. And I'm not looking for an argument here. I'm just speaking really from the heart, like I said, and just speaking according to the deepest wailings of my soul. It's just true. God bless these artists for creating life-changing songs that have been, like I said, the checkpoints of our lives. Time machine, we talk about it all the time. I was talking to Liberty DeVito doing an interview on Friday, a few days ago, where we're talking about Billy Joel's songs. He, of course, was a drummer for Billy Joel from Turnstiles to, a little bit of River of Dreams, but all those albums he was a drummer on. He was there in the studio when these things were happening. And I was telling him, when I am at a Billy Joel concert, and I've been to many Billy Joel concerts, and I just took my son, when he's playing these songs, 20 to 25 songs from Piano Man to Only the Good Die Young to Summer Highland Falls, or River of Dreams, or We Didn't Start the Fire, or I've Loved These Days, Vienna. I could go on and on. When I'm hearing these songs, it's like it takes me to that moment, and it's the only thing that can do that. It takes me to these moments that I had with my mom or my dad or brothers and sisters, friends, experiences, and I see my life flash before my eyes. And it's not just Billy Joel. It could be Journey. It could be Rush. It could be Def Leppard. It could be Fleetwood Mac with Stevie Nicks when she sings a certain song. Dreams. It takes you back to this moment. Anyway, I could go on and on and on. But many of you, most of you in this community that watch this, you've had the unique privilege, as have I, to grow up on these songs, these artists. We've been very blessed that these have been the soundtracks to our lives, that we lived these moments, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Talked about it the other day, that you listen to the 80s, you turn on a mainstream radio station, and within, a section before, commercial section, you could hear Stevie Wonder and the Human League, and then Bon Jovi, and then UB40, and on and on and on, and then Steve Winwood, and then you come back and it's Aretha Franklin and George Michael, and you could hear new wave and rap and hip hop. I mean, it might be the Beastie Boys, and then the 60s and 70s were like that as well. I mean, the Beach Boys, and then of course the Byrds, and then the Supremes, and then the Beatles. That's psychedelia, that's folk rock, that's soul, R&B. And the 70s were like that as well. In the 90s, that started to edge off, and you started to get into where mainstream music is just not like that anymore. So we just had all this variety, and that's part of why this is such a golden era. Anyway, but that's what this community is all about. We've talked about it many times, celebrating these great music. So anytime that an artist from this amazing era passes away, I feel like it's our duty, or at least my duty, to celebrate their lives, their music, their accomplishments, the things that they've done. So having said that, I'd like to pay our respects to Helen Reddy and Mac Davis. Now, let's start with Helen Reddy. Now, Helen Reddy is one of the biggest international pop stars from Australia. She was dubbed the Queen of 70s Pop by many, and she started performing at just 12. She was on the Australian vaudeville circuit, and then at 17, she won a talent contest. It was an amateur talent show, bandstand. And then her debut single here in the U.S. was I Don't Know How to Love Him. That was a song from the musical Jesus Christ Superstar. That peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 number in 1971. And Helen Reddy and Mac Davis, but talking about Helen Reddy, these were like not just pop stars. These were personalities. They were on TV. They were in movies. They were, like we talk about Sonny and Cher and Kenny Rogers. And these were musicians that you would see everywhere. And because before music videos and such. And of course, the other thing about Helen Reddy is she was in Peace Dragon. I mean, come on. Candle on the Water. That was one of those shows that you watched over and over as a kid in the 80s. We had VHS, and that would actually be a great segment. It'd be a pop culture segment. It wouldn't really be music, but it would be, what are those VHS, what are those movies on video cassette that you watched 50 times, 60 times? Raiders of the Lost Ark. Remember when your parents, you'd record them off of like HBO or off TV. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Pete's Dragon, Karate Kid, all the Disney movies, Rocky 3, I could go on and on. But that was another thing that Helen Reddy did that was so huge, is Pete's Dragon. But, Helen Reddy over her career, you may not realize this, but 18 studio albums, 7 of those albums went gold. Over 500,000 copies sold. She had 15 top 40 hits and 3 number 1 hits on the Hot 100 alone. I Am Woman, of course, very iconic. That was in 1972. Delta Dawn, very big. That was in 73. And then, of course, Angie Baby in 74. I Am Woman, though, will forever highlight the legacy of Helen Reddy. I mean, that song was truly one of the most socially impactful songs of the pop era because it was a timeless anthem for female empowerment that's really become part of the lexicon, the lingo that we use every single day. And she wrote that with Ray Burton, and she won the Grammy Award for Best Female Vocal that year for her performance, I Am Woman. And again, that's had an effect on many, many people. And like I said, Helen, she was a beloved personality. She was a pop culture mainstay. Like I said, films, TV. She actually had her own variety show, the Helen Reddy Show, in '73. She was also a regular host on the Midnight Special. She did that in '74 and '75. I love Midnight Special. When those DVDs came out through Time Life, I had to have them. So, a lot of great performances there from, when we talk about the Cars. We just talked about the Cars a couple episodes ago, but great performance is just what I needed on there, and so many more. But when you have a chance, you should check out the Helen Reddy biopic. Excuse me, I Am Woman. Sorry about that. I Am Woman. It's available on demand. We'll have a link for it. And some of these songs, too, we'll put links for below so you can catch up. Now, like Helen Reddy, Mac Davis, he was also a pop culture icon. I mean, he was one of the most successful crossover artists in country music. He was a crossover artist in the 70s. He was in TV and movies. The name Mac Davis, of course, was first associated with his uncanny ability for songwriting. Talk about Elvis Presley. He composed 3 of Elvis's biggest songs. I mean, you think about A Little Less Conversation. That was a song by Elvis that put Elvis back on the map after his death, that introduced millennials to Elvis. I mean, I've talked to millennials before, younger people, and they're like, oh, yeah, oh, Elvis, yeah, A Little Less Conversation, because, it was in Ocean's 11 and used in a lot of different things. And that introduced a whole new generation to the music of the King. And Mac Davis wrote it. And then there's, of course, Don't Cry Daddy, love that song, and In the Ghetto. In the Ghetto. That's one of my favorite Elvis songs ever. I remember when they covered in Saturday Night Live, when they did the album. I think John Goodman was singing, In the Ghetto. That was pretty funny. So that's a great song. Great lyrics, and it was a song that just meant a lot to a lot of people. A lot to a lot of people, sorry. So he also wrote songs for a lot of other artists, Bobby Goldsboro, there's B.J. Thomas, Nancy Sinatra, just name a couple. But really, Mac Davis had a great career himself. I mean, in '71, he broke out. He became a superstar with Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me, great song. That went all the way to number 1 on the Hot 100. And then he had, a couple other top 40 hits on the pop chart, I believe there were 3 other ones. One Hell of a Woman, I like that song. Stop and Smell the Roses. And then Rock and Roll, I Gave You the Best Years of My Life. That's a great song. On the country side, though, and that's where Mac Davis really shined, he released 38 singles. 30 of those songs went to the top 30 on the country charts, the Billboard Hot Country charts. Really, between 1970 and 1986, there are very few artists that were as massive or as hot as Mac Davis was on the country charts and the country music scene. In fact, he in 1974, he won the coveted Entertainer of the Year award, ACM, which a lot of people, it's been in the news cycle quite a bit lately, Entertainer of the Year because of the tie there. But he won that in 1974, and so huge right there. So not only did he write so many great songs for so many artists, but he had so many hits himself. And I remember listening to Mac Davis. My grandpa listened to country music all the time. And the thing about that is that I didn't like country music, and I think there were a lot of kids in the 80s that grew up that didn't. And I was talking to a friend today, and we hit it on the head. He said something that made me realize why I didn't like country music and why it took me many years to open my mind to it. Hee-haw. We had to watch Hee-haw. My grandparents had Hee-haw on all the time, and you didn't ask my grandpa for the remote. And so, we had, that was a miserable experience, about as miserable as Lawrence Welk was, I guess that puppet was the only thing that I had to look forward to on Hee Haw, but that made me hate country music. But I remember, Mac Davis and others, riding with my grandpa. He always listened to country. And then later on, it started to open my mind to, the George Jones and, of course, Johnny Cash. And later in the 80s when Randy Travis, I was like Randy Travis. And there's some great country there, great Bill Monroe and so on and so forth, bluegrass. But I think that's why I had a problem with country music from the beginnings, because I blame Hee Haw. And you can too. Anyway, but Mac Davis, back to Mac Davis. He appeared in 11 films, including The Sting 2 and North Dallas 40. I remember those. And so really, I want to pay my respects to both Helen and Mac and thank them for all this music that they've created. It will stay with us forever. Again, I've talked about several songs from both of them that are still remain in the lexicon, that they're still part of our culture. We're just grateful that they entertained and enriched and inspired our lives. I hope all of you in this community will join with me and pay your respects to these artists. And the best way to do that is to leave a comment. What are some of your memories? What are some of your favorite songs from these artists? Tell us some of your memories that are tied to them. I love reading your memories. Now, sometimes I don't have a chance to comment on every comment. I try. But I love to read your comments, and so many great stories there. And so make sure to subscribe to this community. We'd love to have you to be a part of this community. We talk about the rock era every single day. It is my goal in life to get interviews with any artist who had a hit or a song that moved the needle, that moved us as human beings. And I'll continue to do that. I'm going to interview till the day I die. We've already gotten over 600 interviews and many more to come. So I'm going to stop babbling now and let you go. But until next time, 3 chords and the truth. Thank you so much. Stay safe out there.